Okay, I'm going to try to download this file, and this is the census file. So if you download the census file, what we're going to do is we're going to create a way to use this data and to identify or compare between different counties. What we have is a list of county data for all the counties in the United States. In this data set, um, for example, these are the fields up at the top here, and this is all the data. We have a data dictionary that says what all these different fields mean, what the unit is, and some of the decimal information, etc. So for example, this is births in 2006. This is some population information, housing information, employment information, federal government expenditure information. What is it, about 83 rows, 82 rows of information here from the census. And what we'd like to do is to be able to look at this information, but compare it between counties. So what we're going to do is I'm going to create a new sheet, and I'm going to call this sheet compare. I'm going to move this sheet to the beginning of the list. I'm going to come to the data dictionary and copy column B. And I'm going to put this in column A here. And one of the things we want to do is we want to select a county. So the first thing I'm going to do here now is I'm going to go to my data validation options. Click on the data tab, data validation, and I'm going to create a list that selects from the county names column D from the county names worksheet. And that's going to allow me to select one of those counties. So here's a list of all those counties, and I'm just going to select one. And what we're trying to do is after I select one of these, that the information is populated in column B for this particular data. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my VBA window here. And I am going to create a macro. What I want to do is I want to create a macro that takes a county and finds the county here in this sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this county, and I'm going to go to my developer tab, record a macro. Macro 1 is fine. I'm going to hit Control F on the keyboard, paste in my county, find next, which it found, and then close it. And then I'm going to stop my recording. Now when I go to my VBA here, pull up, let's see, I think it's right here. Here's the module that was created when I did a look, a find, right? I was searching for this, and it found it, and it activated it, and then I closed the window. So this is going to be my macro. Why don't I go ahead and start and use this macro for what we're going to do. I'll just name it get macro. And what we've done is we've found this Gov Kansas. And there's a bunch of other interesting information that the recorder includes here. All we need to include here is the what and the look at. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Excel hole. Excel hole is referring to the option that when you do a Control F, do you want to match the entire contents or just part? So if I check this, it's going to look for the entire contents of the cell to be what's in this box. And that's what we want when we run the code. We want to look at the entire contents in that cell. So I'm going to keep that. But I don't need any of the other options here for the find. And we're not going to activate either. What we're going to do is once we find the cell, that's going to help us identify what county number to use to pull all the other data information in. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we don't need this range here. We're not going to activate. What we need is we need to create a variable here. I'm going to call it found cell. And I'm going to create that as a range. And I'm going to set the found cell to the cells that we find when we do our find. So set found cell equals to cells.find. Now what is cells? Cells are referring to all the cells on the active sheet at this point. But what I really want to do is I want to find this county in the county names spreadsheet. And the code name for that is counties. So I'm going to do counties.cells.find. Now I can even narrow it down even more than that. I can just do columns and actually type in 4 here. So I want to look just in the 4th column in the county sheet for this information. Now what's also interesting here is I don't want to just look for Gov Kansas. What I really want to look for here is from the compare sheet that range A1. And I'm going to assume for the moment that we're going to run this this procedure, with compare sheet as the active sheet. So I'm not going to refer to the sheet here. I'm just going to type in range A1. And I'm going to go ahead and use brackets for that. It's going to look for A1 value, looking at the whole cell. And that value is what is going to be put into the found cell range. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just make sure that we can get the return, just to check to make sure we're okay. I'm going to debug print the found cell address. So just to see if it finds the right one. So I'm going to hit this. I'm going to do F8. I'm going to set the found cell to this find. And then I want to debug print that address. So this is saying D573. So what we're saying there is if we come to the county names and we look up D573, that takes us to Bonneville, sure enough. So it found that county that was in A1 here. So now that we have the correct found cell address, what we need to do is we need to identify that row. So I'm going to come and create another variable as long, and I'm going to assign that variable the row of the found cell. And I can do that with found cell.row. Now, interestingly enough, when I look at the compare data and I look at the data set, the data set in the county names, it turns out that this is the same list and it's ordered the same way. 1000, 1001, 357. 1000, 1, 357. So I can use the row from this sheet and correlate that with the row on this sheet, except for one thing. There's a header in this sheet. So what I need to do here, then, if I add 1 to this row, that will help me get the correct row on this sheet. So this is going to be found cell.row plus 1. But let's assume that it's possible to not get the right. What if the found cell is not found? So if found cell is nothing, then do what? What that means is maybe we'll throw up a message box to the user. Say, county is not found. And then if that's the case, then we're just going to end the sub. Or sorry, exit the sub. And that means we'll just quit right there. Exit sub means boom, we're done. There's nothing else we can do. But once we find the cell, what we need to do is we need to go back and copy the information from the data set for the correct row and paste it into the compare sheet, but also transpose it. Okay, so how does that work? So we have the row. How do we get the row data and copy it into the right place? We're going to create, we have the data page. So the data code name is, the dataset code name is data for that worksheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the data sheet and we're going to go to cells. Which cell are we going to go to? We're going to go to the row. And which column are we going to go to? Column 1. What is column 1 on the dataset sheet? That is the number, the county number. So we want to start there and we want to copy, let's see, go here. I'm going to copy that number and the whole row to the compare sheet. So I'm going to create a range here using this information. Range, data.cells, the row, comma 1, and then we're going to go data.cells, the row, comma 1 again, and we're going to do an end Excel to right. That's going to take a whole range of cells from the first column all the way to the end to the right. So if it was 1011, it's like selecting this entire range, and then I'm going to copy that. So the method I'm going to use is dot copy. And what I want to figure out is what is the code that I need to put in here to paste special this information and to transpose it. So let's create another macro, and we'll record a macro. In fact, let me go ahead and hit copy first. I'll click on record, create a new macro, and I want to come here and paste special. Paste special, transpose. I'll click on OK, and that is going to paste this same information, paste it, but transpose it into this position. Now I'll stop recording, and I want to see what that looks like. So I'll go back to my code, and here's that code. So here is the selection, paste special, transpose equals true. It turns out that that's really all we need in order to make this work. So I'm going to take the transpose true and selection.paste special, and I'm going to come up here and put it in this code, selection.paste special transpose equals true. Now instead of selection, I want to be a little bit more specific here and say cell B3 dot paste special transpose, and that's going to put it right at B3. So why don't we run this and test it. Now I'm seeing one thing here. We're defining this down here, but we're calling it up here. So I need to move this upstairs a little bit so that we can use that in the following rows of code, right? This is where I'm adding the value here to the row. This is where I'm going to copy from the data sheet. This is where I'm pasting into the compare sheet. So let's try that just to make sure it works. Okay, I'm deleting that I'm going to come back to the code. We're going to run it. We're going to find the Bonneville, Idaho County, and it's found it, and we're going to add it to the row. The cell was 570. The row was 573. We're going to add 1. It's going to copy this from that sheet, and now we're hoping to transpose this into this sheet. And sure enough, it transposed it, and we did it. So now what we've done is we added that data. Let's go ahead and add in B1 and B2. Let's add the state and county information. So how would we do that? Let's do B2 value equals, let's see, from the data sheet. Let's see, is it data sheet or is it county? No, it's not the data sheet because this is the data. It's from the county. We're going to use that same row number to get the county name, which is B, and the state name, which is column C. So instead of data here, I'm going to use the county sheet. I'm going to go to, let's do cells, the row. And at this point, the row is +1. I'm actually going to subtract 1 because we're on the county sheet. So we need to subtract 1. The column is going to be, let's do column, let's see, B2 is the state. So that's going to be column 3 dot value. B3 is going to be the counties, cells, no, open parentheses, the row -1, same row there. And this is going to be the county name, which is column B. And we'll do value there. So now we have label for the state and the county on the compare sheet. So let's run this and see if this works. I'll go back to compare. I'll go ahead and delete this row. And then we'll come run this guy. And there we go. Now let's see. I see the state, but I don't see the county. Why is that? Oh, because we overwrote that down here with the paste special. So we need to move this up one. So let's do B1 here. Whoa. We'll put the state in B1, and we'll put the county in B2. If I do this again, run it again, there it is. We have the state and the county, and then the data on top of that. This all looks amazing. The last thing I think would be helpful is to say, hey, let's compare this across multiple counties. So now that we've added one county data, how do we add so that if we choose another county, that we can compare with another county, right? It turns out that there is an option here, and we can connect VBA to this drop-down list here, meaning we can tell VBA that whenever a new choice is made here to run this code. And the way we do that is we go to what's called the worksheet. So if we go back here, we haven't really talked about this before. These are all the worksheets. And each one of these you can actually put VBA code in. And we're looking at the compare worksheet, which is right here. So if I click on that, this is clicking outside of the module, right? This is where we've put our code for the whole semester. This is the first time we're not using the module, and we're actually looking at the sheet, a particular sheet. And specifically, there's a worksheet option here and a change option here. So you have to be a little bit careful which one you're talking about. There's a selection change and a change. We're looking specifically at the change option. So I'm going to erase this selection change, which is kind of the default. What I'm going to write here is I'm going to say if the target, and what is the target? The target is the input here that's been predefined for this particular sub. If the target is equal to A1, then do something. What is it? What am I going to have it do? Let's see. This is going to be target. I think it's address. If the address of the target is A1, then I want to execute or call the get data code that I just created. Okay, and what this will do is this will run the data every time the target address is A1. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of changes that we can make on this sheet, right? We could edit a cell, we could change the color, we can delete a word, and that doesn't change anything. What we're saying is if the target address is equal to A1, if that A1 changes, then run this get data sub. And it already knows that the get data is in module 1. So here's that get data waiting for us in module 1. This is the compare worksheet change. So for example, when I come to A1 and select Fremont, it's going to run that code and stick it into that column right there. Isn't that beautiful? That is cool. That's where we make that connection between the change in A1 and actually running that data. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we could keep the previous data and just compare across multiple counties? Well, it turns out that that is very possible. How would we do that? If we go back to this code, what we can do is we can insert a column before we paste new information. So I can do columns 2, which is column B, dot insert. What that will do is that will insert a new column in column B and move the current column B to column C. So let's execute that and see what that looks like. I've got my Custer, Idaho chosen. Let me choose Gooding, Idaho. And look at that. It's moved it right over. Custer is still here. Gooding is here. Let's choose Limhi. Sure enough, it just keeps moving it over. Now what's interesting is the columns are very wide. So in order to get the columns the right size, why don't we come back here and let's auto fit the column. So we can do that in a couple different ways. Let's call cell B1 dot entire column dot auto fit. So we're going to go to B1, which is the column that we just pasted this information into. We're going to select the entire column and we're going to auto fit that column so that the column will shrink to the width of the data in that column. And let's see what this does. So let me go ahead and erase these ones and come back to this again. And let me run another counties. There's Madison. Sure enough, it shrunk it. Minidoka. There it is. Now we can compare Minidoka and Madison. Shoshone, Idaho. We can compare these numbers here. This is a much easier way to look at this data from the census and actually compare between different counties. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Let me know what you think.